record.
Here we go.
I'm
And now it'll
Brad.
be on your computer.
I see these
So now it should be on your computer when it records, because it recorded to your computer, not to mine. So
Okay,
it should be fine. Okay,
this is brilliant.
okay. I'm gonna go log out now.
Yeah,
Good
let's
morning.
see how brilliant it is once we get rolling.
So that people can see who's on. Perhaps Larissa, that one is joined. If that's the case, we'll still leave it there because,
She'll probably get off.
but it will function as a recording, the Zoom.
Yes,
So
Right.
we want to keep the Zoom running.
okay, sure, that's fine.
Otherwise, we don't have a recording.
That would be tragic. I hate to ask, why do we want to record?
Well, if
You don't want to be immortalized in electrons?
well, the issue is that, there are important people in the choir, like Sarah and Tim, who, have choir duties, and they would probably appreciate having to look at the recording. Like Sarah's been away for 2 weeks, so she doesn't know anything. I don't know whether she's kept up with her emails or not, but it's,
For her own sake, I hope she did.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Judy and I'm from the board.
Hi, Judy. Welcome.
Judy and I met at Permanent Endowment.
Yes. Had connections before. I'm
Yeah,
trying to get me smart.
Well, we'll do all we can.
That's what I'm here. I can't sit at a board meeting and vote if I don't know what I'm voting about.
Well, that's what we're trying to, provide some information on. I hope it's intelligible.
Otherwise, I'd be watching the Broncos.
Well, this is a big sacrifice you're making.
The key is to ask questions.
I understand,
And we'll have some discussion time. We'll start in 3 minutes, but
but I'm just
Morning.
fly in the wall.
do you know Fred? Annie?
No, I do not.
Hi, Judy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Do you know Trish?
We've seen one another, but I don't know that we were.
Do you know Ken here?
And
Hi.
no, these are all names that I'm familiar with, but not so that I've had the opportunity to.
Oh, good to- Now we can say we
You're
shook and not just howdy.
Yeah.
right? So
I'm the old person on the board.
you're the old, oh, okay.
No, you should say
Wisdom.
you're
You had
the
me for-
experienced one.
Right, not, but I am definitely it was a real pleasure to see that the board was consisted of so many, in my perception, young people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that is good.
And I think that's really good for the board
yeah.
and for the church. Not that wisdom isn't
But
important.
they need wisdom too. It needs to be a good mix. So
Wisdom and energy.
wisdom and energy, yes.
But they're sharp as a tack. That's how.
Well, there's another board member, Ranel.
Good
morning.
Thing.
You know everybody here? You know Annie?
Can't say I know them all well, but I do believe I have met everybody here.
Judy, how long have you been on the board?
A year in January.
Okay. You're an
It's my
expert.
first term.
You're an expert at this point.
No, yeah. Well, Renell can tell about how expert I am. But
Oh,
I'm
well,
here to
I
be
only
smart.
have a year on it, so.
Well, we're so pleased you're here.
Yeah.
So we are recording it. So if anybody who would like to be here but missed it, we'll arrange somehow to do that. We hit the record button. I hope it works. One more minute. 9 o'clock.
Thanks. I don't want.
Okay, well, we'll make a start. I'll stand up here. Well, thank you so much for coming. I don't see that we have anybody on Zoom, but we are recording it, so we need to keep the Zoom running. So if we look back at where the church is in terms of its green team and the creation care goals of the church, I think we can be very pleased that we have now been 8 years as a carbon neutral church. And that is mainly because we've done so well on the electricity consumption and the solar production. But we do produce a lot of greenhouse gases. And we compensate for that with the offsets to the trees, water, people in their effort to plant trees and have green stoves. But this is an area that we wanted to pay attention to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So about 2 years ago, there was a group set up, myself, Fred, Gary, Trish, and Mary Beth, who sends her apologies because she's at a wedding in Wisconsin. So the team set up to try and see what they could do to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. And they looked and saw that there were some grant possibilities coming up. So that's what we want to do today, to update you on where we stand on these various grants. Right. You know, you screen sharing. This screen sharing thing, we've had problems with this before. It doesn't progress. Well, I don't know. How do we get it to progress? Does anybody know how to progress this?
You have to go, is that like a PowerPoint?
It is, yes.
Okay, so you have to go back to the PowerPoint.
I was in the PowerPoint. So there's the PowerPoint.
Okay.
So I need to, there.
Yeah.
Now I hope it's still recording.
What are you hitting?
No, well, I can hit this now. Okay, so we're going to talk about the sanctuary roof and also the geothermal prospect. Welcome, Tim.
Morning.
You haven't missed anything. We just started. The sanctuary roof is not insulated, so that was clearly an area that we could improve on in terms of insulating it and reducing our gas consumption. But unfortunately, we knew of a leak, and that was also a great concern because you can't really put insulation either inside or outside if there's a leak, because the water will come in and squish up inside the insulation. So we have been aware of the leak, and here's the history of the leak. In 2001, the original wood shakes were replaced, and then some of you will remember the wind damage was severe and the shingles had to be glued down more. And ever since that has happened, the roof has been leaking, dripping down where the organ is, which always requires us to move the organ in the spring. We attempted to repair the leak, and we paid $2,500 for a company to come up with a big hoist and inspect. They couldn't find anything obviously wrong, but they did put sealant around in various places, but it didn't fix it. In 2023, during the Marla Augusta presentation, we had a bucket of water come through, and Brian will vividly remember this because he was there putting buckets around, trying to avoid their trombones and stuff. So that prompted us to get more serious about this, and we had a company come out, and we had found some holes in the bridge, which they fixed, but there was still a small leak later on that year, half a cup, and in March of this year we had a half a cup, and then in July we had half a cup. Now this is where it leaks, and it's above the organ, and you can see these are the tongue and groove planks in the ceiling, and you can see how they're buckled, and the water runs down to a low point. It just drips off this point.
What do you think the integrity of the structure is right now?
We will find out when they take the shingles off. They will look at the underlying wood and see if that has been damaged or moldy or whatever. But we have not pulled any shingles off to find out.
But that's the real concern, because if you get black mold in there or whatever, or dry rot, then you're gonna lose the roof.
So we'll find that out. So here's a picture of them. I mean, this is a serious operation, but they did all that. And that was last year. But it still leaks. That's the problem. It's still leaking.
It's leaking where the organ console is, not where the organ pipes are, right?
Yes.
Right. It's above, and it extends down onto the main area, drips down in 2 or 3 places. So we have been working on grants to insulate now, bearing in mind that we need to do something about the leak. And the one that we have been working on now for about 18 months came out of the Inflation Reduction Act, and they granted about $2 million to Colorado University Boulder in an operation called RAND, Renew America's Nonprofits. And they collaborated with the Mountain Sky churches to set up a group of churches to act as test beds for this, because there's more than 2 million. But this was the first tranche, and we were in there. And we asked for 200,000, which was the maximum, to insulate the roof. And Mountain View is now one of 18 churches that have passed the 2 level 1 and level 2 screenings out of the 53 applicants. Now, the next stage is that the 18 churches, their submission has to be submitted to the Department of Energy. And the Boulder Group have asked us to confirm that we would contribute at least 20% more to the grant as per the requirement. So this requires a board vote. So this has been submitted to the board. And it's basically, so this is what we submitted to the board. Mountain View United Methodist Church will comply with a 20% matching requirement for the $200,000 CUB grant. We recognise the total project cost may exceed $250,000 as insulation and other items are investigated. Mountain View will provide $50,000 for the 20% match to the award grant amount and fund any remaining costs. I mean, we didn't want to go into the fact that the whole thing will probably cost $600,000, but from their point of view, there's a need. We will automatically add a lot more to this. So this does not commit the church to anything else. If they give us the grant, we don't have to accept it. It's just a means of them knowing that if they give us the grant, that we are prepared, if we accept it, to supplement it a bit, which was the condition that they've given to all the other churches, so that there's buy-in to this. So that hopefully will be voted on at the next church meeting, the next board meeting, which I think is next week.
Wasn't there a time frame that you had to spend the money by?
Yes. The Department of Energy will announce the final winners in December. Now, up till now, the money that's been allocated has actually been agreed to be paid to the Boulder Group, and there's a group in the Boulder Engineering Department which are getting paid, like research students and postdocs, to administer this. So they're drawing their money, okay. However, they have told us that the implementation money has been rescinded by the Trump administration. However, they say they're hopeful that it can be put back in, and there's an appeal going on. So they're going through the process, and it will go through to the end of the DOE investigation. And so hopefully we'll know one way or the other whether we got it. Then if we did get the award, then we have to find out whether that's actually going to be paid or not, and it may or may not. Now, if we do get it, there's only a 12-month period in which they are going to refund the expenditures. So what we're trying to do is to, in case we do get the money, to be prepared to go ahead at that time, because we need to be ready. So this is part of the education process, so that if we get it, we have all our ducks in line ready to go, because to do it in the summer, you really need to give the contractor the signed contract earlier, and Fred will talk more about that. So, Fred, it's over to you.
Okay.
So this gives you an analysis of the energy usage of the church from the gas boiler. And you can see that on the left-hand side, that the sanctuary in the blue consumes the vast amount of the natural gas. Everything else is really minimal compared to what the sanctuary, because there's no insulation in the roof, and we have 12,000 square feet up there. And so if we insulate with R30 on top of the roof, so you take all the shingles off, you look and repair if there's any repairs that need to be done. Then you add in insulation on the top of that, and it reduces the amount of gas you need for the sanctuary by a very large amount, 70% or more. And it reduces the total amount of gas for the north boiler by more than 50%. And so if we went to, yeah. So this is the cost to add the insulation, and there's an inflation part of it, and there's an uncertainty due to major storms, because if you have a major storm, then there's a shortage of shingles and the price goes up, and it can go up by 50%. And so here is the bids that we have we went to 16 different companies, only one gave us a full bid, and this is their bid. So if we initiate early in 26, the cost would be $543,000. And if we wait till the end of 26, it goes up 15,000. And if we wait till 27, it goes up by 37,000. So there's an incentive to do it more quickly. And if we use the 200,000 grant, you'd want to start in early 26 anyway. So that's our target. So we had solicited bids from 16 companies. And so the full bid would remove the old shingles, dismount and store the solar panels, install 50-year 5-star shingles with a rated to 130 mile per hour, including the mounts, install new gutters, revitalize the skylight. That's about $30,000 to revitalize it. A new skylight's $150,000. So, and then the panels would be cleaned, inspected, and remounted.
I hope my voice holds out.
You want to use the microphone?
I think I'll be okay.
Can you
Joe
hear?
and I were on a cruise dodging Hurricane Priscilla for the last week, and I seem to pick up a bit of a cold. So I'm going to, as usual, take Fred and Arthur's information, try to turn it into dollar estimates. So that, let me just state the thesis of this is it's always cheaper to do the insulation first. And I have a long-term analysis, some short-term analysis to try to show you that. Okay, so now this is a long-term, this is 30-year total costs of various technologies. So they're grouped in groups of 4, as you can see along the bottom there. It's always the case that we're looking at a heating technology without the roof. Then we do just the north roof, which we could maybe talk about, or the full roof. Okay, so the first one is we leave the old boiler in place. We don't do anything and assume it lasts 15 years, put in a new boiler. That's the first case. Second is right now we put in a high efficiency boiler, essentially a replacement for a modern replacement for what we got. The third set of graphs is air source heat pump. The fourth set is ground source heat pump. We don't need to go over the heating choices, but I want you to look at the pattern. For every one of those, the lowest cost is to immediately do the insulation. And I've done this this is with mortgage. I've done it, so this assumes basically the Fraser sale doesn't go through. I've done it with the Fraser sale going through. I've done it with net present value. I've ran it, I think there's 48 different cases or so. It always comes out like this. So that's what I want to try to get across, is that it's pretty robust. It seems to work out in all those cases. Now, why? Okay, so this is the thesis I just stated. So why is that? Well, first of all, I assume that it's not an everlasting roof. We're going to have to do something in 15 years. I assume that. So then it's what Fred referred to. It's the inflation in the roof costs. So if you do it sooner, you get a lower cost roof right away. And if there's a mortgage, that higher cost then gets rolled into the finance costs and it gets even higher. If you do the roof right away, as was stated, half of our gas use is half of our usage is lost through the roof. So you save that right away. In a couple of cases, Brett and Arthur tell me, we can put in a smaller heating system. If you insulate, you can put in a smaller heating system, also saving money. And we avoid the leaks, which with Arthur's talked about, and mold, the big risk. And the other risk is, by doing this, there's other risks besides escalation of roof costs. There's escalation of gas costs. So I think it's a risk reduction strategy to do it right away. Okay, that was long term. That was 30 years number. This is trying to get at, don't worry about the numbers. The bottom line is the only one we need to worry about. But I've tried to look at the case is, if we get the grant and we try to get the roof in place in the 2026 heating season, 2027 heating season, or 2028. So it's comparing acting now, acting in 1 year, acting in 2 years. Okay, now what I've assumed is we get the $200,000 grant. I assume we don't get the Fraser sale. So this is the worst case, I think the worst case you get. So this is the case that we go ahead, we get the grant, and we don't get the Fraser sale, and we have to mortgage the whole thing. All right, so the savings come the same kind of story. The roof goes up. As my numbers don't actually match Fred's because I was gone and he got the update before I did, but the inflation is the same principle. Gas cost savings, the same principle. I include the mortgage cost. So if we do it right away, 2026, we got to take out a bridge loan to cover the down payment. That's in there. And we also, if the sale doesn't go through, we have to do the mortgage. So it's got the mortgage costs in it. Now you might think it would be 200,000 as primarily the difference, right? You might think the advantage is you get the 200,000, but it's actually bigger than that. In this case, because that mortgage cost gets rolled in and the 200,000 savings gets even bigger, and it's 350,000 or so. So most of it is the mortgage savings. There's the gas. So you got sort of a trade-off between a lower cost roof and gas savings against the mortgage cost. That's more or less how those numbers work. So it's the 200,000 and you got a few trade-offs there. Okay.
So were any discussion? I might add, this is the anybody's interested. This is all the documentation that we've gone through for the installation, if anybody wants to see this. The various applications, and they went through a review process after we made the application, and various questions backwards and forwards, but it did meet the competitive requirements, because this grant was made on a competitive basis, and we got through based on the application that we made with all of the supporting data. And we we submitted our audit, which Fred basically did, which provided the data for why this installation would be so beneficial.
Well, we should compliment you for that, because yes, it does look like, what were you, 18 out of 53, so
Yes.
thank you for, I know, so thank you for
Yes.
achieving that win.
Well, I do have a question. It came up in your discussion. If they take off the roof and there is mold in there and it has to be mitigated, would we receive any kind of insurance with that?
I think there's at least a $50,000 minimum on insurance. So the cost would have to exceed 50,000 for the repairs, I think, before the insurance would help.
I'm just shaking the pockets for coins.
Yeah.
I have a question about why there was only one company that would do the complete thing. What was, obviously you've done your paperwork on that, but why was there only one?
Well, there's a number of factions. One is that 65 feet high and it's a 60-degree slope. So you have to have everybody harnessed up like they were on a mountain. And you have to have the largest lifts that they have available that'll do more than, like 100 feet, because they have to stretch out. And not everyone was willing to deal with demounting the solar panels and inspecting them and being able to put them back up. And this contractor has a solar company they work with, and there's some in Boulder that maybe could have been used. But anyway, they've gone through and evaluated all of that. And we have pretty good confidence in them, because this is the same company that when we had the big leak, we had a number of people look at the roof and they couldn't find a problem. And he sent up a very high resolution drone, and he found that there were holes in the very ridge top. And we know the crows have been up there pecking away at it. And his pictures had such high resolution, you could see down to the wood. You could see the holes. And so he put a metal ridge cap up there, because the shingles, when they're bent across, are stressed. And so they don't have the same longevity as when they're flat. And so he determined that a metal ridge cap would be better.
So you have complete confidence in this company?
Yes, we do.
Now, the comment I can add that this would be insulating both sides. So the main contractor has subcontracted with a solar company called Apollo, and they're one of the bigger solar companies in the area. They do this sort of job. They will take the solar panels off, and then we'll build up the insulation and they'll put them back. And this is a regular occurrence, because if, for instance, in a hailstorm, if the shingles are damaged, a homeowner would need to take the solar panels off, put new shingles on and put them back on. So they're used to doing this, and we've had the guy out here, he's seen it and so on. So we have every confidence that that could occur, in a good way. And that's part of the quote.
Homework.
Well,
But since there was only one that came up, I wanted to know
yeah.
what the evaluation process was, and you've explained that. Thank you.
The other thing about reducing the risks, when boilers fail, they don't fail in the summer. They fail under load. So it'd be Christmas Eve or something like that. So you reduce that risk, because if you insulate, we have backup with the HVAC system that's on the narthex roof, and that would be enough to keep the building from freezing. And so if we put in the geothermal, as we'll get to in just a couple of minutes, it gives us protection there. And we're really concerned that we don't have mold damage and dry rot in that roof for the leak that's been up there. I think in any case, we need to do something with that roof. And if you tear off the shingles to do the repairs, you might as well put the insulation up.
There is a danger in ignoring the leak because it will leak, and each year you'll have the water coming in, and we don't know, but if it is doing any damage, the longer you wait, the more the damage is going to be. So I think we've put this off now for so many years, but my impression is that the leak, it's a small leak, but it is getting worse. So we really, it doesn't make sense to put this off because you'll pay for it later on.
Well, and in the case of the Westminster Methodist Church, the black mold was so severe that they had to sell the property to the city of Westminster, and they now worship at Simpson United Methodist Church. They no longer have a physical church because they could not repair it. It was so great. Reverend Megan can tell you all about it. She was there.
I don't disagree with that. I just wanted to know about the competitive bidding and why you chose them, and you answered that. That's good.
We also, when you go back to 2000 and whatever it was, when we did the first repair, the 2,500, we also went out to many repairers, and there was only one who quoted us on that job, and that they didn't know what was wrong, but they got the hoist and went up and looked all over and couldn't find anything obvious. And they did sort of some resealing around the skylights, which probably wasn't the source of the leak, clearly, because it still leaked after that. But it is very difficult to get roofers to even consider doing that because of the height that they've got to go to and the extra precautions they've got to take for harnessing and so on.
You need really skilled people that can deal with the harnessing and all the steepness.
Any other?
The timeline here, it doesn't overlap with any of the building activities that the building committee is working on for Project Cornerstone, right? This would be before that, because once you have a prime contractor, because we have a design build firm under contract, right, for that project. So bringing in other contractors when we already have contractors can sometimes create a conflict.
So I think we definitely need to coordinate that, and that's something. That's something, you know, the board will, I'm sure, try and coordinate the various. I mean, the building group and the finance group and
all that
at
the board level, but the committee level too needs to kind of be talking. So
I think it would be unwise to have the roof insulation going on at the same time as the other site building, because they need access with the crane, and that has to be stored each night. And I've seen this happen. They need a place where they can back it out onto the open parking lot. And it's a big thing, you know, with the extension. So you can't have other people using the parking lot, you know, in that area when this is maneuvering around. So
I think what you presented so far, and if we go forward with that path, would happen before there would be any substantial work related to the Fraser Project Cornerstone.
Right, that would be the best thing to do to get it done before any construction for the Fraser site.
So if you wait too long, then it starts to get. And I'd really like to see the net present value or the present value of the numbers, because I think that story is probably the story that's going to sell us the best, because it seems like, and I don't have the numbers, that the project, depending on what timeline you're looking at, the net present value is positive, right? Positive in terms of it pays for itself, in terms of even with the financing. And
I would say it's the lowest. You're spending money. I mean, there's no question we're spending
certainly, but if you do the 30-year,
so.
The 30-year savings.
Right. So I have a slide. It's not the present value. I think it's a nominal, but I can show you the net present value. It turns out that the roof is is still always, I mean, the statement I made that the roof's always the cheapest way to do it. So
Mhm.
that stands up to
For sure.
net present value and all
Yeah.
that. We do have a discussion of heating choices. I can show you that as well. Yeah, I have all those.
So, yeah, because that's gonna affect your present value calculation, and so is rates, which you don't.
I think a good way of looking at it is looking at the situation if you don't do anything, which has a cost to it, of course.
Mhm.
And also the other situation the church might consider is if we don't do anything, this whole sale, the Fraser sale was partly justified by building up a reserve so that in 15 years when we did have to replace the shingles, I mean, if we ignore the leak, the shingles are 25 years old right now. In 15 years, they surely will have to be replaced. So that's like a lot of money that the church would need to put in. Now, if we don't do anything in 15 years' time, we'll have a smaller congregation. That's going to be a real difficult thing to do, to raise that money. So the plan was that if we don't do anything, we will set aside enough to cover that in 15 years. So you've got three situations. One, you don't do anything, or you set aside money to cater for this, or you do the insulation and then you don't have to do this in 15 years because you're putting 50-year shingles on. So you've obviated this expense down the road by doing it sooner.
Yeah, I understand that. And the combining the roof and the insulation, it's two things in one cost.
Yeah. And the analysis I did, we can sit down. I mean, it's pretty flexible. You can put in any escalation rate for gas, for electric, for roof, discount rates, mortgage rates. You can just pop them in and it goes through the whole spreadsheet. So it's pretty flexible.
I'd like to see like the conservative guesstimate of 30 years with a 15-year mortgage, what that looks like.
That's what I showed.
But the net present, maybe
All
that's
right. No, this is nominal, not. But okay.
Just as a,
I mean, I could
just to say, here's,
I think the next slide is still nominal, I think.
and it also solves the roof problem. I mean, I'm looking at it from the insulation, that's the energy savings, that's the right thing to do. I mean, this building was built back when nobody cared about energy.
Exactly.
And it's different times, so it makes sense to do it. It doesn't make sense not to.
Roof integrity is really important, yeah.
Mhm.
Because that could cost you a whole lot more than just.
For sure. And I would say that we haven't been ignoring it. We put the cap on last year. There's been money spent. It just hasn't been enough. So to solve the problem. So that's unfortunate.
And I mean, I've been on trustees board discussing this. It's really difficult to try and do something where you don't know what problem is. It could be, water can come in at one end and run down those planks and drip. So you don't know where it's coming in. And one company have been up there, they spent 2 days looking around, couldn't find, I mean, it's not as if we've lost a shingle or there's a hole in the roof or you can see a nail hole.
I just say, give yourself credit because you said we shouldn't ignore it. And it hasn't been ignored. We've been looking at it, trying to solve it for years.
But the fact of the matter is, I've been watching this for many years. It is getting worse. And wherever the water's getting in, we don't really have a good fix on where it's getting in. And the obvious thing to do is to redo the roof, the whole roof, and then you're sure. And you get a warranty, they give you a 20-year warranty that it won't leak. So.
And at that time, you can inspect for damage or rot or other things, because right now there's no way to inspect that unless you drill a bunch of holes and put cameras in. So that would give.
Yeah, you could see any damage to the.
Find the damage, which is good and bad, but.
Or you may not
rather know than not know.
Yeah.
And then be able to fix it. Or if there's no damage, that would give us all that answer to that question, and you would know.
I have one other question. What happens if the grant goes away?
If the 200,000 doesn't appear from the grant.
Right, if we don't get it.
The first set that I showed you doesn't have 200.
Okay, and you will have a copy of that.
So just to be clear, though, that 30-year the 30-year long-term analysis of the 12 cases, there's no 200,000 in that. That's just that's no rebates, and that's a mortgage, not a mortgage, net present value, not net present value.
I think we kind of have to plan for that.
Yeah.
And then have the opportunity that that appeal.
But it's actually fairly simple. I can show you when we get to the next one. I mean, the differential between what's going to be our preferred option, which is the heat pump, the ground source heat pump. You can see the differential between that and the next lowest cost alternative, and it doesn't take a very big rebate to make the geothermal cheaper. So
the $200,000 is a bonus to us.
Yeah.
really.
It is a bonus.
We're really
That's
planning
Yeah.
to go, it's justifiable without that. If we get it, boy, that's just the $200,000 bonus. That's really great.
And that gives us the incentive to act.
No.
But where there's other reasons actors besides that.
Yes, I mean, the other reason, as you said, is we don't want to have these two contractors conflicting,
No.
But is it fair to say that, you've done a great job, explaining all the reasons that this is important from a risk mitigation standpoint, from energy efficiency standpoint. And the real question is, how would we finance it? And how would we coordinate it with Project Cornerstone? And that, to me, feels like where we need to put our energy now. I feel like I think you convinced me the first meeting we had like this, that, it's absolutely a good thing to do. But, it feels like now our energy needs to be on what's the scenario that makes this work with the capital that we need to spend up front, knowing the 200,000 will be at risk, but,
And I think that's something that, the board and the building
Yeah.
group will need to incorporate into their planning, right?
decent sized piece of work to try to figure that out.
Right.
There's likely mortgage activity next year because of one of our mortgages coming due, this balloon payment. So there'll likely be that there's, Laura's pushing to have a new mortgage next year anyways. So that could be a time where we look at adding in other things, but we have to talk about it.
So I think Gary's going to incorporate this latest quotes and a bridge loan interest and so on, and give a revised set of predictions.
Yeah, that detailed table, which I didn't go into. I mean, I made some guesses as to when we'd have to do the 20% down payment. It's a guess.
That's the down payment for that contractor.
Right. And so you have to finance that 20%. Then assuming we don't get one way or the other on the Fraser, we either have to carry to the Fraser sale, which is another piece, or you have a full blown mortgage immediately. And then, so I try to do that in the case of we try to hit the 2026, 2027 heating season, the next one, and the next one, you can look at the differences. And Fred's got the better numbers.
I guess what I'm suggesting is that work now needs to be integrated though with the overall mountain view
Sure.
picture.
That's right.
And it doesn't mean we couldn't approve this, because I think you also said that even if the board approves, we'll find the money to do the 20% match. We're not obligated to that.
That's great.
If we do the integrated analysis and we find out we just can't do it.
Right.
We can't get the money, we can't get a mortgage, we can't get a bridge loan. I mean, hopefully that won't be the case, but
So I think if we're able to provide not this coming board meeting, following board meeting with this detailed information, so that the board has the facts at their disposal to integrate all these expensive matters. Is that a good plan?
Budgeting time. Yeah.
Is that a good plan?
Well, it's the right time of year, I think.
Okay, so I think that if we talk to the board, that'll be a good thing for the board to consider, asking us to provide these detailed projections for consideration at the next board meeting. Well, we should push on.
Is there another topic?
projections, which I don't think would just be your team. I
Right,
think it would have to include some other
of course, right.
folks.
From the building committee or from,
Well, probably the finance committee
yeah.
and the building committee.
Can we move on? So we, this is just quickly on the geothermal grants. We, as one of the heat sources that Gary mentioned is geothermal, and we've applied to the state of Colorado, and we've been through this selection process, and they have awarded us $75,000. We have the grant; we can expend it anytime. So, in addition to that, which does not depend on any federal money at the moment. The Colorado money is pretty much guaranteed for our expenditure anytime we want it, up until 2027. However, we're also eligible for a tax credit, which was made with the Inflation Reduction Act, which surprisingly the Trump administration has kept in place. And one of the reasons for that is that Chris Wright is the US Secretary of Energy. He's a person from Colorado. He's a geothermal proponent. And this goes along with the drill baby drill idea. So that 35% or 30% plus in addition, depending on whether you use US components or not, that is still in place, which would give us 210,000, which is well worth having. Fred.
Okay, just a quick view of what our climate is. The 90% of the time in the winter, we go between 20 degrees at night and 40 degrees in the afternoon, but you can see that there are some excursions that go down below zero for a day or two, and sometimes as low as 20 below. So one needs to be able to accommodate that, at least so the building doesn't freeze. And the geothermal heat pump pulls energy out of the ground by circulating a fluid that's got antifreeze in it, and you go through simply a compressor expansion cycle, and you can then distribute heat to the building. You can reverse it and provide cooling, but our swamp cooler is a lot more efficient, so we'll probably use that most of the time. And the size of the heat pump you need depends, of course, on the load. And so this shows the light blue shows a 25-ton geothermal without insulation, and you can see that it's on 100% of the time at 5 degrees outside temperature. And so you would need some additional help in order to do it with the 25-ton. Whereas if you insulate the full roof, an 18-ton, the heavy green there, goes down to -20, which would cover everything. And the normal winter usage, the temperatures outside between 20 and 40, you see that the duty cycle is like 40% or 50%. That's an optimum kind of sizing for a heating system, is that you're normally using it 40–50% of the time, but you have the capacity to handle it when it's really cold. And so if you look at an 18-ton in a little more detail without the insulation, you can see it only handles down to 20 degrees outside. The heavy green is, as before, shows down to -20, and we have a rooftop HVAC with a 9-ton capacity, and with it you could handle down to -40. So, and this shows where the loop field would be. We don't have enough land to do a 25-ton geothermal with the recent changes to the property that they're selling. But that shows the loop field for an 18-ton, and that fits the land that we have. So we need the insulation.
So it's those 12 white circles.
Oh, right.
Okay.
This area is now being designated a detention pond, according to Tim.
That's what we had planned to use if we had a 25-ton, would be in the detention pond, but we don't, if you sell that area, we don't have it.
Right, it's not clear who owns that. Well, I'm not sure whether that is going to be sold or not.
Yeah, so this way, we're just putting wells on our land that we have control, and that seems the appropriate approach.
How deep are the wells?
Probably somewhere between 400 and 800. as they drill the wells, they look at the thermal properties and they'll say, well, the thermal transfer is a little less than what we had thought. We have to go to 450 or 600 or whatever. And so you can adjust how much heat you get by how deep they are, but we think we probably can get by with 12 of them that are 400 feet. If we went with a driller that does deeper, say 1,000-foot wells or 800-foot wells, you might be able to go from 12 down to 8 wells instead. So a little smaller footprint. Saves a little bit on the thing. And if I go back here, the red on there shows where the heat pumps would be. Part of the mechanical parts on the outside. The transfer pumps would be on the inside wall of where the red is. And then some of the pipe distribution stuff was in the green area.
So would that be a build out or is that inside the existing?
No, the red and green are outside the existing building. But the pumps you don't want to freeze, and so you're going to protect those, so they would be mounted on that back wall and they protrude in about a foot or something like that.
You know, with storage areas.
Yeah, where the pump for the organ is in that area, and they just protrude, so they'd be thermally protected.
Gary, you better.
On the basement level, or would it be closer to the sanctuary floor level?
No, they're on the
On
basement.
the basement, okay.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Moving on. Okay, so don't worry about this. Don't worry about the detail here. It sort of pulls back the curtain a little bit on the graph. So this is the summary numbers. We look at the heating costs, the natural gas, electric, the roof. Okay. This one, which did I do? I did, I think this one's mortgage with, it's not net present value. The point is that look at total nominal, and I believe it works for present value 10, but we can look. The cheapest in this example is the one in yellow, just a high efficiency boiler with full insulation now is the cheapest. If you look at the ground source heat pump with the full roof, the differential is about $150,000. So this gets to the question of the incentives. And keep in mind, this is 30-year costs. So it's 30 years spread over, it's 150,000 over 30 years. But we have a number of incentives that are moderately likely. We don't know, right? It may get 200,000. We seem to have the 75, the 35% tax credit. The 35% tax credit by itself makes the heat pump the cheapest. And the 35% is pretty likely, and that's a couple $100,000. So it makes the ground source heat pump the cheapest. If the roof comes through, well, and I guess we got this 75,000. So you can see that the numbers can work with the ground source heat pump. That's the preference from a green team perspective. Okay.
And I would say financially, because with the 200, at least the 215 from the federal and 75 from the state, you're talking almost $300,000.
Right. Yeah. So it works real well if you, I have, we can play.
There's a lot of uncertainty also in gas prices, right? So it's hard to predict that.
I think
electric.
I'm using a pretty conservative 2% escalate.
Oh, okay.
I might use it 2.5.
Grants and the tax credit, we have to front all that money first and then we get a reimbursement.
Right, there's gonna be
so we have to front all of that.
Yeah, there's a bridge loan with all of it. And which, yeah, I guess I don't have that here, that detail, because it's a timing problem. Okay, you've seen this before. This one is the one of interest to us, I think. By doing the ground source heat pump, we use a whole lot less natural gas over the period. So the old boiler and the high efficiency doesn't really change the game a great deal. Air source and the ground source.
What's our natural gas user in these cases?
That's the backup one on the roof, on the narthex roof.
Oh, okay.
that we showed as the backup.
That has a gas.
These
That's
guys,
right.
these guys are incredible. They have the gas estimates for all that stuff.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know there was a gas element to that. I thought that was all electric, but
The one on the roof, on the narthex roof, is a gas-fired one,
okay.
which was originally just designed for the narthex, but if you turn the blower on, it blows all the way around,
Sure.
and the heat produced in the narthex goes into Barker Hall up through the vents, and it provides backup.
And we do have electricity cost associated with the heat pump. It turns out that our excess from our panels don't cover the entire amount we need. So it's a small amount, but I think I could show it.
Yeah,
So,
I think it covers
well,
more than you do.
well, I think I'm using your numbers. Okay, if you
Yeah.
look at the natural gas cost under the last one, it's 28,000. That's the number we just showed you. Oh, and the electric. So the electric, there's 17,000,
Right.
and that's well, it's two things. It's the loss. We don't sell the excess and we don't get the penny. So that's
Yeah.
But then we actually have to buy at retail a chunk of power as well, and that's that number. So
Yeah.
there is a little electricity associated.
There will be opportunities in the future to upgrade the array, right? You're assuming no changes to the array or no
Correct.
changes to the inverter,
What we got sitting up there now.
but that technology is advancing. So
Maybe.
it's
Yeah, if we put in single crystal solar cells, you'd get probably 5% more.
right.
Well, I think we better, any other vital question? Well, thank you so much. Are we through? Thank you so much for coming and being prepared to get into the details of all of this with us.
Thanks for your preparation, yeah.
Good. Okay, well, we'll close the meeting. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
So the present panels are 14, I think, % efficient, and the newest ones are 21, 22.
I just got one, so mine are the 21.
Yeah,
And they're
so that's a 50% increase in production per area.
so I mean these ones don't seem like they've degraded that badly. So
They
it's like
still-
leave them as
they-
long as they're
Yeah, they
Working.
still meet the original specs for output.
that's impressive. But at some point, if there's damage or if any of them do have failures,
Yeah, I
Okay.
found online, I can get replacement panels for about $100 a piece that fit the same footprint, mechanical footprint, and have an output that's just a few % higher than we have now.